check.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the Cleveland Community Police Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. We are honored to be in the Dunham Tavern Museum tonight at 6709 Euclid Avenue, the oldest, I believe, standing structure in its original place in Cleveland. There will be, unfortunately, no live stream tonight because of a technical difficulty, but a recording will be made available to the public after the meeting. And before we call to order, I'm reminding everybody of the agenda changes that we had this afternoon. Updated agendas can be found at the table behind. So now I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm T.Wang. I am serving as Chair Pro Tem for this meeting. Welcome to everybody. Now we will conduct a roll call. Commissioner Kennedy.
Present.
Commissioner Chura.
Present.
Commissioner Benito.
Present.
Commissioner Adams.
Present.
Commissioner Garret Ferguson.
Present.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Present.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Present.
Commissioner Zaid.
Present.
Commissioner Reeves.
Present.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Present.
I'm Commissioner Wong, present. Commissioner Earley has an excused absence, so we will look forward to hearing from him and seeing him next time. Thank you so much, and welcome to our meeting. Welcome to the public that has made the journey out here tonight. First, we would like to start off by giving Ms. Lauren Hansgen the opportunity to give a brief history of this amazing space. We are in the Dunham Tavern barn. So Ms. Hansgen, please welcome to the mic.
Better? Aha, there we go. This is the original 1840s barn burned down in the 1960s. This is a new structure that was built in 2000 for us to do programs like this one. But the building you passed as you pulled in, that's actual Dunham Tavern. And yes, it is the oldest building in the city of Cleveland that's still standing on its original site. So it dates to 1824. We have a big anniversary coming up next year, which we're really excited about. And we've been a museum since 1936, open to the public since the early 1940s. That's a pretty significant amount of time. But also we know that we are a hidden gem that's a little too hidden. Plenty of people pass us by on Euclid Avenue all the time, or maybe they catch a little bit of our sign on Chester, but they're not aware that we're here. They're not really aware of what goes on here. And so we have been at work the past couple of years on a campus-wide master plan. We started with investigating what are our community's impressions of us, good and bad. What do people think of Dunham Tavern? And we found out a lot of interesting things, not a whole lot that was surprising, but the takeaway was that we have potential. So we embarked on creating that campus-wide master plan. We are very aware that we are in the community, but not of the community. So it has been our goal to really transform into an organization and a place that feels welcoming, open to everyone. Technically, our grounds are open from dawn to dusk, but people don't always know that. So that will start with some physical transformation of our property, taking down fences, clearing this overgrowth, expanding our walking trail, adding a lot of specialty gardens dedicated to different histories, so that this feels like a neighborhood park. And so that's also why making our space available for things like this is important. We have all kinds of our own programming, but also community events. We want to be a community gathering place is a top priority. And so if you're in the museum, I invite you to come find me at some point and visit. I'd love to have you. It depicts what the Dunham's house looked like in the 1830s and 40s when it was in its heyday as a stagecoach stop. So Euclid Avenue was the stagecoach route. The Dunham family had built their house there and then thought, well, gosh, with all of the traffic that's going back and forth right in front of us, we should open up a tavern. And so that was the main history of that building for quite some time, and it's the story that we tell today. There will be more stories for us to tell as we continue to expand our period of interpretation and consider the history of this place and our surrounding neighborhoods in a broader way. So we're really excited to do all that. So welcome. Glad you're here tonight. Glad to the community members that are here, and we'll keep an eye on Dunham Tavern. We have a lot of exciting things coming up to share.
For her? Sorry. In this exciting space? Well, we'll look forward to taking a tour of the place at some point. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. We'll be moving on now to a brief discussion of meeting decorum. I hope that it's fairly obvious that we are dealing with, complex issues, and we may have disagreements on that, but let's keep everything about the issue and not about the person. And in the last meeting, I realized there was a lot of active discussion. I'm not, if you trust me as the chair pro tem, I will allow multiple questions if they are going to help us move forward. And we will move on, hopefully, for another commissioner's opinion if it seems like we are over making the point. So I hope that is okay with everyone. And I now want to make a comment or read a comment about our voting procedure. We are voting for our co-chairs, electing our co-chairs tonight. I have had a long thought about a lot of our voting procedures, and I just want to voice some of my concerns about the process. And I'm putting my thoughts down right now with the hopes that we will endeavor to more thoughtfully incorporate our values and mission in designing processes and policies. I believe that in order to become a fully sustainable and independent commission, we need to holistically embrace the social, political, psychological, and systemic realities of Cleveland in every decision we make. This may seem like a tall order, but I cannot foresee how to build a resilient future unless we practice and enact our vision and values in every decision we make. So therefore, if one of our values as a commission is inclusion, expressed as building consensus through a democratic process, then I would hope that important decisions like our voting process be determined by the entire commission rather than just a few members. This is all the more important because practical realities pull us towards majoritarian rather than consensus decision-making in most of our other votes. 2, if our values are, as commissioners, include humility and integrity, then I would propose a guideline for the future that candidates not vote for themselves. Even this small demonstration of self-sacrifice changes our orientation towards one another and the community, shifting us away from competitive thinking towards trust and collaboration. And 3, if we value effectiveness as a commission, we need to design systems and policies that resist political calculation and promote independence and diversity of thought. Therefore, a roll call vote may harm our mission and mindset as it allows commissioners to change their vote depending on the vote of others. And here I thank Commissioner Donaldson for taking the lead to help us bring about a more equitable voting process tonight. And also, not using ranked choice voting further estranges us from the ability to know and express our full preferences as a commission. Lastly, if we aspire towards excellence as a commission, we should seek not only to elect co-chairs who have the skills to lead and represent us, but also to work in transparent mutuality with the community. Therefore, I would have preferred a vision and value statement from each candidate to be shared with the commission and community, as well as the opportunity for each candidate to chair a full commission meeting before we had cast our votes. This first version of the new Cleveland Community Police Commission has a difficult but worthy task because we are setting the standards for all future commissions. It can be frustrating to focus on the details of how we conduct our business in the way I'm suggesting, but it is also important because our essential purpose as a commission is to reshape a system from the inside out, making it more safe, equitable, and inclusive. That work happens in the details of procedures that create a culture that can either protect or harm our city and its citizens. We set the tone here, and how we run this commission is a microcosm of the system we're trying to shape, as well as an integral piece of that very system. And I dare say that we have the ability as a commission to be even better than the systems we currently live in. And I would love to see us continually aspire to that higher standard in everything that we do. Thank you so much. So now we are going to move on to the approval of minutes from March 22nd, 2023. I hope that everyone has been able to look at these minutes, and if we are satisfied with the minutes, if someone could make a motion, barring any small typos and changes, of course, if someone would like to make a motion to approve those minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes with the understanding there will maybe some minor changes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners Van Leer and Benito. So now I will do a roll call vote to approve the minutes. Commissioner Kennedy? Aye. Commissioner Chura?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Garret Ferguson? Aye. Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Aye.
Commissioner Zaid?
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves?
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
And Commissioner Wong, I vote also aye. So the ayes have it, and the motion is passed, and the approval of the minutes from March 22nd, 2023 goes ahead. Thank you so much. We do have a speaker cancellation for today, so that is, so we are going to have that agenda adjusted a little bit. Right now, we're going to move on, if everybody is okay, we're well ahead of schedule, to the first public comment period. So we welcome comments from the public. We are, again, not live streaming, so maybe if that makes it easier for some of you to speak, but there will be a recording of this event. We welcome you to come to the microphone. And please state your name. Thank you so much.
Kareem Hinton, Cleveland resident, born and raised. I just wanted to thank everybody, and I really do mean that, everybody that's here. I'm glad that you guys are sticking to it. I know you guys are working through some tough stuff, amongst yourselves. Coming up on this vote that you're gonna make, I just wanna put something into everybody's heads. I know it's already there, but I'm just gonna reiterate it. And that's this, is that this is not a popularity contest. This isn't about who's your friend, who you're having side conversations with and so forth, but just about who can get this job done, because this is kind of taken a while. Getting us to this point and getting us to the point where you guys can do some good work. And so I'm just asking that, just get it done, everybody. Please get it done. And it's not about popularity or anything like that. It's about, capabilities, what it is that you're able to do, and is that aligned with what's best for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. The mic is open for other comments.
Well, good evening. My name is Muriel Riggins, and you might recall I was here at the meeting in March. And my comments tonight are so in keeping with what the mood has already been. I mentioned a training with the police and the community, which has, to my knowledge, not been done. We have the community working on things, and we have the police working on things, and we have you working on things for the people and the police. This program, if I may just take a couple of minutes, is called Purple. And I won't be on the mic, but I think I can project. It is about building empathy. It is about humanity. For example, the training for police officers that are not created.
Why don't we have the mic, have you carry the mic? It will be.
Why is that important? It's a reminder of why we're here. Yes. Oh, hi, sweetheart. I'm sorry. I'm not talking loud enough?
No, but it's not picking up on the camera.
Oh, I thought it wasn't streaming. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Should I start again?
Yes, please.
No, what I was saying is that when we're handing out the brochures, we're touching one another. We're making a connection. This training is all about making a connection. It's about remembering why police are police officers, what they're in the community to do, to serve. It's helping community to remember that police officers are there to help them. But it's also for community to understand more about what it means to be a police officer. I'm not going to get into the training now, but I'm going to just do a quick experiment, if I, with your permission. It takes 2 minutes.
Yes, please.
And this is for everybody in the audience as well. Close your eyes. In the back, if you're participating, please close your eyes. This is a safe place. Some of you are not comfortable enough to close your eyes, I understand. But for those of you that did, I want you to take a deep breath. No deeper than that, come on. And as you blow it out, I want you to remember when you were 7 years old. What room are you in, or are you outside? Who is watching you, or who are you watching? How do you feel? Remember 7? Are you scared? Are you happy? Are you hungry? Okay, open your eyes. That's what I call a journey into yourself. This training will put people in situations where they will journey into themselves. And as we process, when they come out of it, we hope that they'll learn something about who they are and why they are. Thank you for this time. I appreciate it. If somebody needs more brochures, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Muriel.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will also have a public comment period towards the end of the session, because I believe that receiving direct feedback from the community is very important as to our meeting. But are there any other members of the community who would like to speak right now? Okay, so if not, then we will move on from the public comment period. As I mentioned, we had a speaker from the city, but she unfortunately had to cancel. So now we will move on to the election of the co-chairs. And Mr. Donaldson and Ms. Kennedy, would you please give us a brief synopsis of the process so the community understands what we are doing tonight?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So what we are going to do is we do have a form here that has a blank for the commissioners to write their names, and then there's also space for them to write their votes for co-chairs. There will be 2 co-chairs that are elected. After we write our votes, we will pass the forms to interim executive director Jason, and then he will tally the votes, and then he will also call on each commissioner and read off their votes as well.
Thank you so much. We will, in the spirit of transparency, there will be the commissioners' names on the ballot, so the community and the public can know how the vote is tallied. We have a little bit of an addition to the election of the co-chairs. We realized, unfortunately, very late tonight, this afternoon, that according to the own rules that we made, and I apologize as the chair of the Rules Committee that this was not mentioned before. According to Rule 1.44, all candidates were to have given a speech when they nominated themselves last time. So I will open now the floor for candidate speeches. Is there any discussion as to the length of speeches, or we're well ahead of schedule? Primarily the candidates, I want to open it for you. Do you feel comfortable giving speeches? I'm fine with, not giving speeches if you don't feel comfortable, but if anybody wants to give speeches, and it was something that we need to correct in our procedure, is there any discussion? Okay, so who would like to begin the speeches?
I do recommend that we just go in alphabetical order. That might make it better.
Great.
So
So,
starting with Commissioner John Adams.
thank you. Mr. Adams, you have the floor.
All right, so welcome everybody. So, so all I have to say about the co-chair position, I just listed some things that I feel that are important to me in a co-chair for this commission. And the first thing is there is a big time commitment. So for me, I know that I'm going to be able to make meetings. I know that I will be able to fill in with committee meetings if needed. So I do think that as we think about who we would like to be the co-chairs, we have to take the time commitment into consideration. But I'm saying that I know that I will be able to meet the time commitments of the co-chair positions. Also, I will also do the work. So there's a lot of reading that has to happen with this commission. And if you're going to be an elected leader of the commission, then I also feel like you should have a track record of showing up to meetings prepared. So I think I've demonstrated that. I think that I have come to meetings prepared and made my assessments and my comments based off of the documents that we have to follow. My next point is that I'm also confident that I can speak for the group when needed. Ideally, we should be able to consult as commissioners, but that may not be possible all the time. So I think the co-chair should be someone who we can have the confidence that they will speak for the commission and not create problems for the commission because there's a gaffe or they're not informed or they didn't do the work. We have to have the best image that we can cultivate for ourselves as a commission. And I'm confident that with my background, I'm a trained public speaker. I'm, like I said, I'm going to be well read and do the work. So I'm not going to say anything stupid to embarrass us. And I do think that that's something that you can assume, but I don't think it's something that we should assume. I think we have to be very conscious of making sure that we elect people that are going to do that, because one of the duties is to be a spokesperson. Also, I believe in a collaborative, group-centered leadership model. Even though you're going to be in like a formal position as a co-chair, I do not believe that it would benefit the commission to take that as like a blank check to exclude people. So for me, it is critical that as we are building the commission, that people feel included, and not just say that you want people to be inclusive, but to show them that you are serious about being inclusive. And I can guarantee the commissioners that I will consult, maybe not everybody because there won't always be time for that, but I will refrain from doing anything without at least talking to some of the other commissioners to make sure that it's the right thing to do. I think that's appropriate. And I also think that part of this position is also managing people. And I believe that sort of how I've been operating is, even on the commission, I've been pretty independent. And I pretty much talk to other commissioners about commission work. So I think that I will be able, because I've done it and I do it every day at my school. I deal with conflicts all the time on the team that I manage at my job. And I also have done that as well in running that program for Johns Hopkins. So I think that that's also a part of the position that people may not want to think about too much. But the reality is you have 13 people. We've already seen it, 13 different personalities. And whoever the co-chairs are, they're going to have to manage those dynamics, whether they want to manage them or not. Also, I can promise the commission that I will not act unilaterally. I pledge to involve as many commissioners as possible in any major decisions that have to be made, and irrespective if those decisions require us to include commissioners or not. It's just something that I will pledge to do. And lastly, I believe that this particular installment of commissioners is critical because we are still establishing ourselves. And I think that we have to set a strong foundation as we move forward for this new Community Police Commission. And we have to think about the future of the commission. This is going to be a one-year thing. There's going to be new co-chairs in a year or so. And I'm not doing this for a power grab. And I think that's important that whoever we elect as co-chairs, they're doing it for the best thing for the commission and not because it's a fancy title, not because it looks good on a resume. We should be doing this for the commission and for the community. So as I've said several times, I am committed to this commission. I will make time for the commission. There's already been moments where, I've been consumed with commission work outside of my regular job, and I just feel like that is something that I committed to when I came onto the commission, and I will continue to do those things. So those are the reasons why I feel like that if you vote for me, you will have a strong and solid and independent co-chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Up next, Commissioner Chandra Benito.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner Adams, for getting us started. I think as a fellow last name at the beginning of the alphabet, when we had our interview with council the first day, and you were the first. But thank you for getting us started and setting such a good foundation for us. I just want to take a minute to kind of introduce myself. I think a lot of our commissioners will know most of this, but I also, there's a lot of community members, and I think I am glad we're having the opportunity to talk with the community. I think this was just the start of building those relationships. And so a couple things about me. So my name is Chandra Benito. I'm from Seattle, Washington. And I lived in Seattle is there an echo? Does it sound okay? Maybe turn it down. Is that better? Okay, there we go. So I'm from Seattle, Washington. I lived there until I was 22, and then I lived in Missoula, Montana, and then I lived in Salt Lake City, Utah, and now I'm in Cleveland. So I've been in Cleveland for almost 2 years, and this is where I plan to live for the rest of my life. I love it here, especially, when spring gets started, you just feel like winter's over. It's the magical place. So I love being in Cleveland, and I plan to live here and raise my family here. The other thing that I think is important to know about me is that I'm hard of hearing. My first language was American Sign Language. I grew up bilingual. I grew up using hearing aids and interpreters in school. And I share that because I feel like that was really foundational to my development of how I saw the world and how I saw inequity. As a young girl, I was bused to a different district because the area that I lived in didn't have a program for deaf and hard of hearing kids. And so I saw the differences in what was provided for children with disabilities and just how children with disabilities are treated differently. And that is kind of where I started my journey of thinking about what does it mean to fight for justice? What does it mean to stick up for people? What does it mean to stick up for yourself? And also kind of showed me some experience of what does it mean to be marginalized. I think that in addition to that, though, I also want to recognize that I'm a white person. My family is Latino, but also white. And so I think that also shaped my life experience of recognizing the privilege that I have been afforded, and the systems that I've benefited from. And so I think those two kind of disparate experiences really made me grapple with, okay, what's happening in the world? Why is it not working? And then the last thing that I kind of want to share about myself that kind of shaped my worldview is that I'm a social worker. And so I think growing up hard of hearing and kind of seeing, some injustices as a child, I always loved people, wanted to build relationships with people, and wanted to help others. But very early into my education and my career, I moved from wanting to help others to realizing that the systems were setting us up to benefit some, hurt others, and that it wasn't people who needed help, but it was our larger systems that needed help. As a social worker, I have worked with a number of issues in a number of communities. So the biggest areas of my work has been working with people with disabilities and disability justice, working in mental health and working with people in crisis, and then also working in domestic violence and sexual violence. And the way that I got into being passionate about police accountability and wanting to improve policing is a lot of what I saw as a social worker. So I've been a social worker who works in hospitals, in shelters, who works with people who are unhoused, people who are experiencing mental illness, experiencing substance use, people who are victims of violence. And as a social worker, I've had very different experiences with police. Some incredible, where I've seen police go above and beyond to make people feel comfortable, to help people regain a sense of power and control over their lives. And I've also seen people feel degraded by the police, feel silenced, and even beyond the end of violence. And so that's what got me into this work. So that's just a little bit about me. My goals in wanting to be co-chair, I think I have 3 main goals that I kind of wanted to address. The first is I want to build relationships. And first, that means relationships with fellow commissioners. I feel so incredibly blessed to be one of 13 incredible people who are up here, people who bring such a breadth of knowledge, of dedication, of experience. And I truly believe that no matter who is co-chair, I'm excited to see your leadership. And I'm excited for what we are going to accomplish together. So I think very strongly that our chair needs to be able to build good relationships with one another, and not only build good relationships for ourselves with each other, but also to help foster and support good relationships between other commissioners. Beyond just the relationships with one another. And I think I also want to point out that it's not just building relationships for the sake of having good relationships, which obviously we're going to have a lot better time doing this if we have good relationships with one another. But relationships are what will allow us to talk openly, to talk freely, to be able to strategize together, to be able to be cohesive, to speak with one voice, which are all things that I believe will help us to accomplish this work together. I also believe that it is important that we're building relationships with other organizations that we are working alongside. So I want to build strong relationships with the CPRB, with OPS, with organizations like MRAC, with the Adams Board, right, with all these other organizations that are stakeholders in what we're doing, and that we will need to be collaborative with, and that will support our commission not just this year, but in the years to follow. I also think it's important for us to build a strong relationship with the division. I am a big believer that there are things that obviously we are here to provide accountability and to provide oversight for the division, but I also believe that we have a lot of shared goals with the division itself. And I want to build a relationship that allows us to really capitalize on those shared goals that the division of police has with us, to build relationships not only based on the fact that we provide oversight, but as people, so that then when things get hard and we need to push back or there's conflict, that we also have more capital to build on and to be able to leverage. I also believe that having a strong relationship with the division means also recognizing the challenges that they're dealing with, because we need to be fair and impartial in our approach to any conflict with the division, in our approach to meting out discipline. And I believe that having a strong relationship allows us to do that. And then perhaps most importantly is building relationships with the community. We are here because of the community, and we are helping provide accountability to the police, but we are accountable to the people of Cleveland and to the community. And I think it is critical that we are building strong relationships. The second thing that I believe in, and Commissioner Adams talked about this as well, is that we need to create a foundation and framework. This is a unique year for us to approach this, as we are doing everything for the first time. And so I think Commissioner Ridgway talked at one point a couple meetings ago about asking for understanding and grace as we get things going. And I think that there has been some well-deserved frustration and desire to see things move along. And that's true. That's what we're here. That's what we're here to do. As Commissioner Adams said before, we need to walk and chew gum at the same time. And but also we have to create a foundation that is not just going to serve us well this year, but it's going to help make the commission successful for years to come. My goal as being a co-chair is to truly set that foundation and create that framework in a way that is purposeful and intentional, so that we are leaving things better for the next co-chairs to come on, to be able to be more successful than we were, and to create something that is going to be sustainable and impactful. And then the third thing that I would want to do as co-chair is support all of our commissioners. We are building the wheel as we are driving the car in some ways, and I think that there have been challenges in everybody figuring out what is their place going to be, where is the best space for their talents and their skills, of which there are many here. And as a co-chair, I would want to help make sure that all commissioners feel like their expertise and their talents and their skills are being used in a way that is furthering this work, and that they can find their place on the commission to be successful. The things that I think make me a potentially strong candidate is, one is that I want to always be accessible and available, whether that is to the staff of the CPC, to my fellow commissioners, to community members, to stakeholders and partner organizations. I like to give my cell phone number freely, share my contact information, and be someone that people can call when they have questions or concerns or just need someone to talk to. The second is I'm very direct. And I think as a social worker who deals with conflict and challenges and crisis all day, I have no problem with addressing things head on. And I actually think that oftentimes we think about conflict as a barrier for success or a barrier to relationships, but I really think that conflict is an opportunity. Because I think that when you work together to go through conflict, you actually build trust and vulnerability between people, and you end up with stronger relationships than you started. And as we know, we have been no stranger to conflict in these first couple of months, and we will be no stranger to conflict as we continue on. But I do believe that those are opportunities for us, and have been opportunities for us to deepen our relationships and our understanding and our commitment to this work. And then the third is as a co-chair, I believe that I would be truly centered in the community, and to make sure that that my accountability is not only to my fellow commissioners, but also to the community, and making that as a promise to be available, to be accessible, and to be accountable. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Benito. Up next, Commissioner Gregory Reeves.
Thank you. I really didn't prepare, didn't have a speech to make. Just want to tell you all two quick stories. I was asked by Commissioner Ridgway earlier how I was doing. My answer was like, I'm a little angry right now. And I'm angry because of these two people I've been thinking about all day in preparation for this. One, we became friends in the second grade. It was 5 of us that hung together. We went to school together all the way through to high school. One of our friends left, went to Hawken, and is now one of the top orthodontists in the state. The other was this young man. I didn't know what happened to him. And then ran into him on Facebook, and he came to visit me, and we sat on my porch and reminisced. And I'm like, what happened? I found out he was a policeman for Parma. I was like, how did you become a cop? The mischief we used to get in. He said, I learned that I had to get away from y'all. He was concerned about his future running around with us. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. They found him on the side of the highway in his cruiser. That was my brother. He wasn't a policeman to me. He was just my brother who happened to work for the police. And the other, I was 5 years old when I met him. We grew up together on 189. I'm not using their names because I didn't ask permission from their families. And in 1991, we were both doing great. Our daughters are cousins. He introduced me to the mother of my children. And we were doing great. We were Christmas shopping. And we had both came through some struggles with addiction. But we were both doing great. And he got caught up. He had to wait on somebody. Long story short, got into an incident, police chase, and he was shot in the back. He wasn't killed, but he was shot in the back. And those are the two people I think about when I got on this commission, how humbled I felt that I was chosen so I can be there for them too. He also passed away in 2019. But I was angry. I was angry that I missed all those years with my police friend. I was angry that my friend got in a situation, but I was angrier that the police shot him while he was running away. I was like, if there's ever anything I can do in my life, because I love this city. I say this all the time, and y'all know that. I was born on 117th Superior, raised on 189th and Harvard. I love this city like it's a person. And when I was given this opportunity, I felt so grateful and humble. And I'm not going to say it doesn't matter if I'm co-chair. I would like to be, but it doesn't matter in the end. We're going to get this work done. We're going to get this work done. Despite whatever you see or hear, we're going to get this work done. I'm not going to let us not get this work done. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. Up next, Commissioner Jan Ridgway.
I love this city. I love everything about it. I love its fault lines. I love its needs. I love its issues. I love its people. I love its communities. And I have worked in every community in the city of Cleveland, from West Park all the way over to Lakeshore. I have been on the ground in every community in the city of Cleveland. And when I was introduced as part of this commission, I was introduced as the elder, and that I am. But elders come with wisdom, and they come with wisdom because they have lived experiences. And I am just so grateful for everything that I have been a part of. Born in a small rural community with one traffic light. Riding as a child on the back of a wagon, holding a lantern up to keep from getting hit by cars on the road. Picking cotton, handing tobacco. I've done it all in 105-degree temperature. and I went to Alaska, a place where I knew nobody. And I made my way there because I loved Anchorage too. Every place I have been, I get to be involved in it. I get to work for the people there. And every step of the way, I have enjoyed this journey. So when I was considering whether to even apply for the commission, I had a whole lot of second thoughts about it. At the time, I was working in Garden Valley. We had built the largest food pantry in Northeast Ohio, and we did it without $1 being donated by anybody except us. This is why I love this city, because you can take nothing and make something. You just have to want to do it. And I have worked with people who didn't have the confidence to help themselves, but we taught them how to use their voices. They were able to go and speak for themselves. They were able to go and accomplish their deepest desires just by letting them know that they could do that. You know, these people that I sit with around this table tonight, it is an amazing group of individuals, competent, educated, experienced. There's a scripture that says something similar to this, and I'm going to paraphrase it just a little bit. These people, this commission, we were made for times like this. We are bringing to the table everything that we need to meet the goals of the consent decree. Will we meet it in the first year or two? No, I'm very honest about that. But it does not mean we will not stop. It does not mean we would not become discouraged, because I believe that we can do anything we want to do. And I've lived my life that way. You know, this commission is a heavy lift. This is a heavy lift. Unlike any other commission, we have statutory authority. This is a heavy lift. And there will be times that decisions will be made that the police will be angry. And there will be times when the decisions are made where the public will be angry. We must be objective, we must be fair, and we must be transparent. But what makes this heavy lift easier is the fact that it's a co-chair. It's the fact that there are people on this commission that can raise issues and support issues just like one person can, but not as successfully as an individual. You know, I believe in 360-degree leadership. You can have two co-chairs, but everybody on this committee will be expected to lift. Everybody. And I'm pretty good at pushing. I'm pretty good at pushing. I also believe in divergent thought. It isn't necessary that we think alike. In fact, if everybody thought the same, we would never make progress. We need to be challenged. We need to be questioned. And when we don't get our way, that's okay. We keep stepping because we have our charge. And that charge, to me, is that constitutional police reform, and it's improving relations between our community and the police department. That's our charge. That's the primary thing we have to do. And we must work together to do that. We must be able to disagree and still be agreeable. We must be able to challenge each other and still move forward. Sometimes we must subjugate our own thoughts about how something should be done in favor of how somebody else feels it should be done, because maybe their idea is better. We must be willing to compromise. And I know that that in itself is a heavy lift for a group of people who are such independent thinkers. That's a heavy lift. But I do believe that it's something that we can accomplish. I'm looking forward to working with the community, with working with proponents of issue 24, with working with our staff, with working with the other people on this commission. And one thing I will tell you, I have no problem speaking truth to power. I will speak no matter who you are. I will let you know how I think about something. And if we don't agree, that's all right. We're going to keep stepping anyway, because we have a charge, we have a responsibility, and we must be accountable. If we're providing that oversight and that accountability for the police department, you, the community, must provide that oversight and accountability for this commission. So we can't work in a void. We have to listen to you. We have to be able to reiterate your thoughts and your desires for constitutional police reform, and we must be effective in putting it into place. So I look forward to the opportunity to work with all of us. And like you, it doesn't make any difference to me. I can do a lot as a co-chair. I can do even more with the support of everybody on this commission. So I appreciate your listening. I appreciate your support of this commission. And I appreciate your support of all the work that we have ahead of us. Because there will come a time when I'm going to call you Billy, and I'm going to say to you, you need to talk me off this ledge. There will come a time when I will call you, and I will say, I need some advice here on how we need to move forward. And I will do that in whatever position I'm in, because that's who I am. That's who I am. And I'm looking forward to all of you learning a little bit more about me as we work through this process. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ridgway. Up next, Commissioner Audrianna Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Audrianna Rodriguez, and I'm one of the nominees for the co-chair position. I believe that our vision should be that the CPC works to uphold constitutional practices that pay reverence for life, dignity, and human rights of all persons, regardless of race, ethnicity, identity, economic status, etc. In the city, by ensuring our community voices are heard, as well as including that information to the various stakeholders. I think in order for this to be accomplished, that as many of the commissioners stated, that we need to be bridge builders. We need to ensure that we have a productive and professional relationship between the various stakeholders, which is essential, right? I believe that the co-chair should be neutral in order to ensure that we're able to move the business forward, as well as take in various perspectives to ensure we're making informed decisions, whether that is holding the police accountable, recruitment practices, because as we know, 115, the consent decree has a variety of mandates or charges, as that was stated. So we have to ensure that we know all our charges and we're able to work with all the different stakeholders. Relationships are important as commissioners in order to move business, in order to work with staff, as well as those various stakeholders. I believe that as potentially as a co-chair, I have the ability to develop innovative solutions while adhering to any mandates. Serving as the budget and grants chair, or one of the co-chairs, I was able to plan, create, and implement a proposal, and really to help spearhead that based on best practices, as well as encourage fellow committee members, all the committees, to help provide innovative solutions and think outside of the box. I think that is something that a co-chair should possess, and I believe that proven from since February that I have that ability and live time to implement that. Additionally, in turning for the Office of Equal Opportunity, I was a compliance monitor for Charter 188 and 187, and I think that this experience will help to adhere for enforcement and compliance from our various documents from Charter 115 as well as the consent decree. I believe that being professional and inclusive, that my fellow commissioners have stated, I believe that from the last meeting, you see that I have extensive knowledge of Robert Rules of Order, as well as utilize that in the grant and budgets meetings to help move business forward, which is critical to ensure that we are implementing our work, ensuring that all voices are heard, as well as ensuring that we create an environment that is inclusive and that everyone feels respected, just like we would like with any other department. I believe that I have the discipline, drive, and grit to serve as one of the co-chairs, and it's my hope that I have your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. And then finally, Commissioner T.Wang.
I would like to share a little bit about myself that would help, regardless of the outcome of the election, for everyone on the committee and in the community to know me better. I'd like to talk about my vision, give my belief about people, give a little bit about my, excuse me, give a little bit about my personal background, and also express my understanding of power. So as we sit in this historic barn, I think about what it means to be the oldest of anything. You know, it definitely, how did this structure survive all of the changes around it? How did it persist in maintaining its integrity, in maintaining its values, in maintaining its mission, if we can say a structure has that? So it is, to me, a combination of how well built it is and also the stewardship of the people around that have taken care of the structure. So I think about those things, about how to combine those two elements as we go on this journey together. And as we know with all journeys, it's not about the destination. It's not even always about just the path, but about the people who come along with you. About the companions that you have in this journey to do very difficult things, very bold things. And I consider my companions not only my commissioners, but also everybody in the community, the police and the people. And that goes to my understanding about people. I think that's very important to express. My belief about people is that better systems allow every single one of us to express our full selves, to live in peace, to realize our talents, to be who we believe that we can be. And it is my understanding as a trained scientist and also someone trained in art history that it is from the system that we need to look for changes. Of course, there's going to be instances that we have to deal, for lack of a better word, the systems, but ultimately our resilience as a community, as a commission, has to be built up like this barn here for the system. And I have to say, though I, believe this about people, I have been in the minority of commissioners that has been able to make hard decisions to maintain the integrity of this commission, often making unpopular decisions. And a little bit about my personal background. I think this kind of sense of, I don't want to say, courage, but the sense of integrity and tenaciousness comes from my personal background. As you can see, I'm, Asian American, but my family came here as immigrants. They were physicists. They didn't want to leave their country. But because of who they were and what they believed about people and their right to live in peace and nonviolence, they sacrificed their lives in order to defend those ideals at the risk of their life. Both my grandparents also did that. And I think, that is what much has been made about my, Ivy League background, that's not where my privilege comes from. My privilege comes from being able to see members of my own family do something without the certainty of an outcome, based on their belief in decency, in peace, in the ability of people to determine their own future. And this is what I bring to the commission, an ability to, I think the power I have is that of an outsider. It's not just comes from maybe being excluded as an Asian American or as a woman. We've all been marginalized, but it is from the tenacious belief that it is okay to be independent. It is okay to defy the status quo. And it is okay sometimes when you don't have the certainty of the outcome, because you do it because it is the right thing. And I do it also with the help of many communities. I want to share two stories that stay with me. When I first moved to Cleveland, I lived downtown. I was walking down Superior, and an African-American, a Black man, came up to me and said hi to me. So of course, naturally, I said hi back to him. He looked back at me stunned. And I said, why are you surprised? He said, people who look like you don't even ever say anything to me, even acknowledge my existence. And my response to him was, I'm sorry, sir, that that happened to you. And I'm sorry that your humanity is not seen by people. And I'm sorry that it could be from a person that looks like me. But just the act of being recognized, this went beyond race ideals, class ideals. He just wanted to be seen as a human being. And that is what my advocacy rests on, is the unseen people, the unseen stories. And I've worked in allyship with people who normally, the classic narrative is you can't work with people that are different from you, that look different from you. One of the unseen people I'm helping right now is an Asian American woman who brother was killed by police, North Royalton police, on a probate order. I should say he's not just Asian American, he's Chinese American. He was an immigrant. He was a person who could not speak this country's language, and he was also an artist. And I only know this story, and I only am able to be honored to participate in helping this woman because of a friend of mine, Kareem, who is African American, who came to me and said, there is an Asian woman that needs your help. And this is the example of the type of allyship that is possible between two communities that historically, well, I wouldn't say historically because I think there has been historic collaboration. And it's really because of my, living here in Cleveland has shown me so much of what is possible from the African American community, from the persistence that they have, in being able to just continue to believe with the hope that things can be better. And that goes to my last point about how we use our power, on this commission. There is power, we all have power, and we all can choose how to use it. I've chosen not to have power over people, but to have power with people. Not power over people, but power with people. And I know that some of my decisions may seem a little bit unpopular and inscrutable at first, but that is with the desire to make sure that everybody can share in the power of this commission and its abilities to transform Cleveland. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Wong. And so with that, we will vote. Again, just to reiterate, the form has a spot at the top for your name, and then there are two blanks below there where you will write the names of the commissioners you're voting for as co-chairs. Does everyone have a pen? All right, and also please write legible. If you need to print, that's okay, take your time. And then Interim Executive Director Jason Goodrich, please collect after we vote.
So just as a record, we have 12 ballots because we have 12 commissioners present. Mr. Earley has an excused absence, so he will not be submitting his ballot.
So I will read each ballot. They're randomly collected here, so they're not in any order. Particularly, it's who handed it to me when. And then I will pass the ballot for Ryan to confirm. Okay. So starting with the first ballot, Commissioner Kennedy. The vote is for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Benito.
I can confirm that Commissioner Kennedy has voted for Jan Ridgway and Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Benito.
Second ballot, Commissioner Chura, Commissioner Ridgway, and Commissioner Wang.
I will again confirm that Commissioner Chura has voted for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Wong.
Okay. Next ballot is cast by Commissioner Benito. The vote is for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Benito.
I will confirm that Commissioner Benito has voted for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Benito.
Next vote is Commissioner Garret Ferguson. The vote is for Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Rodriguez.
I will confirm that Commissioner Garret Ferguson has voted for Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Rodriguez.
Next ballot is cast by Commissioner Van Leer. The vote is for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Reeves.
I will confirm that Commissioner Van Leer has voted for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Reeves.
Next ballot is cast by Commissioner Wong. The vote is for Commissioner Benito and Commissioner Wong.
I will confirm that Commissioner Wong has voted for Commissioner Benito and for Commissioner Wong.
Next ballot cast by Commissioner Donaldson. The vote is for Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Rodriguez.
I can confirm that Commissioner Donaldson has voted for Commissioner Ridgway and for Commissioner Rodriguez.
Vote cast by Commissioner Zaid is for Commissioner Reeves and Commissioner Wong.
I will confirm that Commissioner Zaid has voted for Commissioner Reeves and for Commissioner Wong.
Next vote cast is by Commissioner Reeves. We have a casting a vote for Commissioner Reeves and Commissioner Ridgway.
I will confirm that Commissioner Reeves has voted for Commissioner Reeves and for Commissioner Ridgway.
Next ballot cast is by Commissioner Rodriguez, and the vote is for Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Ridgway.
I will confirm that Commissioner Rodriguez has voted for Commissioner Rodriguez, and Commissioner Ridgway.
The vote of Commissioner Ridgway is for Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Ridgway.
I will confirm that Commissioner Ridgway has voted for Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Ridgway.
And the final ballot cast is by Commissioner Adams, and we have a vote for Commissioner Adams and a vote for Commissioner Rodriguez.
I will confirm that Commissioner Adams has voted for Commissioner Adams and for Commissioner Rodriguez.
Just give us a moment to make sure our counts are correct. I have 1 and 2. Good. All right. Announcing the final results. Congratulations to Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Rodriguez, who are now the co-chairs for the remainder of 2023.
What a relief for everybody. So congratulations to Ms. Ridgway and Ms. Rodriguez. So I speak hopefully on the behalf of the whole commission that we look forward to your stewardship and your leadership and working together as a united commission. Thank you so much. Mr. Donaldson and Ms. Kenny, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, just thank you for all of my fellow commissioners, and I look forward to working with our co-chairs as we continue to get the work done.
Thank you so much. So we are a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to try to ask that the status committee, the committee status reports be as brief as possible without losing clarity and necessary details. So we will first move to the internal training committee. The co-chairs are Mr. Earley and Ms. Garret Ferguson.
We do not have a status report at this time.
Thank you so much. And now we will move on to the Budget and Grants Committee with Dr. John Adams and Ms. Rodriguez as co-chairs.
Thank you so much. We had our last meeting. We discussed basically as best as possible adopting it with a flexibility because this is our first year and there are still some I guess provisions that we need to have before we can actually finalize. So some things we review was our eligibility confirmed up to $50,000 for the grants, as well as our general processes. The staff will work with a work group to create the application and hopefully finalize that. Commissioner Adams, would you like to add anything?
The only thing I would add is that we have a draft that we have sent over to the staff to sort of work out some of the kinks. And our hope is that in the near future, definitely by our next meeting, that we'll be able to bring something to the full commission. But I think there was a discussion that we may not necessarily have to do some of that stuff. But if we do not need to bring some of the items to a vote, I think what we agreed to is to make sure that every commissioner is well informed about sort of the process and the next steps moving forward with the grants.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions? Okay, great. Now we will move on to the Rules Committee. I'm the chair of that committee, and so I will give the status report. We were able to finalize 3 more rules for consideration and adoption. This includes information on the Brady Giglio list, public speaking, commentary, and media relations, as well as the expenditure approval and budget oversight. These are 3 sections within our administrative procedures. We will be, since they are finalized, we have moved them to full committee for approval. They were sent out via email. I did not receive any feedback, but I'm willing to open the for discussion and for any questions about the rules that were submitted. Okay, and then if there are no concerns and feedback, would anybody like to make a motion to adopt sections for Brady Giglio list, public speaking, commentary, and media relations, as well as the expenditure approval and budget oversight?
To the chair,
Just
point of order. I think each of those must be voted on separately.
okay, so we will do that. So we will first move to, is there a motion for the section on the Brady Giglio list? A motion to adopt? Okay, go ahead.
So I had a question, just in where I had to pull it up, for the, under the public speaking, commentary, media relations, the last sentence that says, written reports and statements approved by majority commission shall include the names and or signatures of all commissioners, regardless of their vote. I wanted just some clarity around that, so even if folks voted against a statement or they were in dissent, their names are going to be listed as if they did dissent, as if they did agree. Is that what that means?
So I did want to mention we are going in order. Can we table that question
Yep.
for right now? Can we
Yep.
focus on the section with the Brady Jiggly list? Are there any questions or commentary on concerns about the Brady Jiggly list? If not, would anybody like to make a motion to adopt that part of the administrative rules, procedures?
To the chair, I move to accept, I make a motion to accept the Brady list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Van Leer. Thank you, Ms. Ridgway. So we will now do a roll call vote for the section on the Brady Jiggly list of our administrative procedures. Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Chura.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Garret Ferguson.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Zaid.
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wan also votes aye. So it passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Now we will go back to Commissioner Garret Ferguson's concern about the public speaking, commentary, and media relations. Ms. Garret Ferguson, would you mind reading out that passage again, and if you need to read more for context for the community?
Yes. So, and hopefully in the future, these can be printed out so the community will be able to see what the rules are at the meetings. But there is a section under 2.x that says, titled Public Speaking, Commentary, Media Relations. On that page, the last sentence says, written reports and statements approved by the majority of the commission shall include the names and or signatures of all commissioners regardless of the vote. So my question is, in the event that a commissioner disagrees or is in dissent, will their name be put on there as if they are, as if they have agreed to it, or they're in agreement with whatever the statement or written report is?
So the question is, will somebody in the minority opinion have to be required to have their signatures on these reports and statements? Would anybody from my committee like to comment on that? Or Mr. Goodrick?
To the chair, this has been the traditional practice of the CPC. Your vote is recorded, so everything will be recorded. So for instance, in a meeting this evening, if you were to oppose something, you're still on the record of opposition. But it has never been a practice to remove names of commissioners from any formal document because they did not vote in favor of that document. In the end, it's about, it's a democratic process, so sometimes there will be reports that a few of you didn't agree with every word in that report. But we've never taken the names off before, and this came up, Richard Jackson is in the audience this evening. This has been something that has been, the previous commission has been steadfast as keeping that tradition because it shows unity even if you don't agree, that you do support your peers in the grander sense of being part of something.
Ms. Garret Ferguson, does that answer your question?
Yes, and I would like to just make a motion after that. Is that okay?
You can make a motion.
So,
is there a motion? There was already.
Okay, I just wanted to make a motion to have an amendment part of that that says that for commissioners who are in the minority of the vote for written reports and statements, that they will have the option to have a dissent paragraph or a dissent letter added to that will be included at the end of that report and statement. That's my motion, because I understand being in the tradition of how the commission has always been in the past, but I think as we're moving forward as a new commission and kind of creating our own and new groundbreaking framework, I think it's important that we have our own traditions. And so in the spirit of full transparency, and I understand people's names remaining on there, but if people could have that option of having a dissenting paragraph or a letter that's added as an addendum, I think that would be fair.
Thank you for that motion. I'm correct to understand you want a motion to make an amendment to this part of the public speaking commentary media relations, that there will be an option for commissioners in the minority opinion to leave their name off of and also issue a minority opinion?
No, their names would stay on their vote would still stay public. But if they are in the minority opinion of like voting against it, that they will be able to have a dissenting paragraph included that explains that information.
Okay, so just to confirm that they will sign the report and the statement, but they will have the room in a dissenting paragraph to explain their rationale for the minority opinion.
Yes.
So that is the motion. Is there any discussion about that motion? We need a second.
I second.
Mr. Adams, thank you, seconds that motion. Is there discussion? So now we are opening up to discussion of that motion.
To the chair.
Ms. Ridgway?
I think what Commissioner Alana is demonstrating is something very similar to the Supreme Court, where there are minority opinions and there are majority opinions. I think that as a commission, when we take a vote, and if the majority favors a position, I believe that our names on that, once it is passed, on that issue, once it is passed, shows unity on this commission. There will be times that we may not agree with a lot of issues that are on the table, but if we take the vote and the vote passes with the majority, that represents the entire commission. It's just my opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Ridgway. Mr. Adams, Dr. Adams?
To the chair, I think that we have to make sure that we are consistent in what we say we want from the commission. We cannot, in a democracy, the rights of the majority to rule as a majority is also there, but the majority is also responsible for making sure that the voice of the minority is heard. So you cannot have a tyranny of the majority and silence people's voices. And I think we have to be really careful by saying majority rules, because that's actually not democracy. Democracy is not just majority rules. Democracy is all people having their opinions heard and actually building consensus. And you can't use a 7, like what are we gonna do if there's a 7-6 vote? That means we have 1 vote difference. I think that some of our understandings of democracy is dangerous. It's not just majority rules, because what that could mean is you could have 7 people just decide that they're gonna vote together on everything, and you can just run the commission. I believe that if we are about diversity of voices and ideas, I think that I'm willing to I don't want my name on something that I don't agree with. So I think that if we are going to be inclusive, it's just an option. It doesn't mean that anytime there's disagreement on the commission, that commissioners are going to want to dissent. But I do think that if we want to promote ourselves as a diverse group of people, like on one breath, we can't say we're all so diverse and different and we're going to disagree, and then everything appears as if we agree on everything. So I just think that we have to be careful about creating a scenario where commissioners don't have the option to express concerns. I mean, just because it's the majority, it doesn't mean the majority is going to be correct all the time. And so this, like you said, as Commissioner Ridgway said, it's the most obvious model is the Supreme Court. We know what the Supreme Court's been doing. We know what the majority of the Supreme Court's been doing. So I'm not saying that's a scenario that will happen here, but there are scenarios that could happen where the majority is wrong or there are concerns that haven't been addressed. And I think that commissioners who feel strongly about that should be giving some type of platform or space to express that. It doesn't mean that we're going to sabotage anything, but I do think that if we are going to model a group that can move forward together despite disagreement, I think that it would be a mistake to just tell people you lost, you were on the wrong side of the vote, you can't say anything. That doesn't feel very inclusive to me.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I do want to clarify your Ms. Garret Ferguson's preference is to be able to sign the report, but have a space to dissent. Would that be your preference also? Because you also said that you did not want your name on something that you didn't agree with, but the space provided for dissent is sufficient for you?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Van Leer, sorry. Mr. Van Leer.
Yeah, to the chair. I think on the one hand, I understand the concerns are being raised about this, but I do believe that in this case, the commission needs to speak with a unified voice. There will be plenty of opportunity for discussion, transparent discussion in our meetings, and as we make these decisions. But I cannot support the amendment just because I think it would just create confusion. And what we do need is, as a voice of the community, that those dissenting voices and those arguments will be aired. But I think the final product needs to reflect the majority vote.
Thank you, Mr. Van Leer. Ms. Ridgway.
Just one last comment, and that is I agree, Commissioner Adams, that there should be a place for dissenting voices and votes, but that's the purpose of this discussion now. We hear that dissenting voice. The debate allows a space for a dissenting voice, but the vote is carried by whatever rules we have set up, whether it's decorum or a majority. And that vote represents the commission. And it's no different than the process we went through tonight to elect the co-chairs. It's the same process. There were votes for different people. There were people who won co-chairs, people who did not. And yet, those votes are recorded for the minutes and for the record, but we still have those votes in place. And that represents the full commission.
Thank you, Ms. Ridgway. Ms. Garret Ferguson.
Just a clarifying point. When I say include a dissenting paragraph, I don't mean in which if there's a decision that has been made, the minority is gonna somehow not be, their actions are not gonna move forward with the majority. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just having something on the record, because what I really want us to be careful of is in the spirit, I hope that in the spirit of us wanting to present as a united body for the community, that we are not sacrificing integrity, that we are not sacrificing the voices of those who sometimes will be speaking on the behalf of community members or bodies of people that they also feel that they represent. and actually acting in that spirit of democracy. So not in a dissenting way around a decision-making process of any kind, but actually allowing a transparent space and actually a living a document that can actually be seen and living. And I think it is very powerful actually to see a government body, to see a body that represents the community be able to be transparent and voice that, hey, we are different and we're gonna move forward like this. And this is how a group of us actually felt, and that is okay. I think that one of the problems that we have and we've seen is that we are afraid to allow community to see and to witness that this is a process, that we all don't agree at times, that we all have different ways of thinking, that we all represent sometimes different communities, but we're still able to come together. So I think it is very actually powerful, and it's a way for us to be demonstrative of how representative democracy can move forward and forge a new way of acting by allowing some type of written statement to be included as an addendum. I think that's a very powerful statement. I think it does show a section of unity, but I want to make sure that we are not sacrificing the persona or the visual of unity for the sake of integrity.
Thank you so much. Is there Mr. Donaldson? I do want to make a clarifying point that Dr. Adams is correct that there are often democracy is a very large term. There are different forms of democracy. There's majoritarian democracy. There's consensus democracy, full consensus democracy, like the Quaker people would practice, and anywhere in between. So he is, so that is something that we are. Again, it is a worthy point for active discussion. I do want to clarify that point, Mr. Donaldson.
Yes, I just want to add that we just have to be mindful of timelines and also being timely when we are putting out our statements and reports. So if we do allow some sort of dissenting paragraphs, then we also need to consider the amount of time that we're going to give those who want to dissent to put together their statements on those documents, because the last thing I want is for us to hold up a report or a statement because we have voted this option in, but we didn't clarify how much time they have, because that has to be considered as well. If we're going to vote this in as it is, then those who dissent could potentially be holding up that report or statement being released. So we have to keep that in mind also.
And I am willing to add a time if that makes people feel comfortable. It can be 24 to 48 hours, whatever people feel comfortable. I don't mind a time.
I think, is there more discussion, Ms. Benito? And also we have, Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Benito first.
I think when it comes to this discussion, one of the things that I'm thinking of is what is going to help us to push the work forward and to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. My concern with having dissenting opinions included in like formal reports and documents is the way that that could be exploited by those who are opposing our work to discredit the work that's been put into it. And I think especially if we're talking about a document that potentially a group of 20, 30 people with experts have created together, and then you have someone who's writing a dissenting opinion who is maybe just one person writing an opinion. The challenge with that kind of structure compared to something like the Supreme Court, where you have somebody on the the agreement side and then disagreement side writing opinions, is those are at least similar things that are being put forward. One person's writing an opinion, another person's writing an opinion. What we could be talking about is a report or a document that has been scrutinized and read by many, and has represents an agreement of many people, not even just the 13 people or whoever many people have voted for it. And then in the same report, you have a dissenting opinion or thought when I think that it causes confusion to the community looking at it. I think it will cast, it will put the kind of approved message in a negative light. And I also think that it could be exploited by people who then point to the dissenting opinion and say, well, look, hey, this person has written this thing here. Is the dissenting opinion going to be voted on by the commission? Is the dissenting opinion going to have discussion? Because if the main report has discussion and before it's put forward into the public, then shouldn't the other? I just think it opens up a really dangerous precedent that could be exploited by people in order to oppose the work that we're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Miocho. And Ms. Rodriguez, I'm going to give you the floor for your comment, and I'm going to end the discussion and move to a vote. So please go ahead.
So I just had just two questions. One, in your proposal for the amendment, who are you, would the commissioners that are dissenting create the paragraph, or are you looking for the staff to create it? And I think that would possibly help make some rulings if they are in support of that. And also to ensure that we are hearing all voices and perspectives, which I think that you're allotting to. How long are the recordings and the minutes up for preview for the community members or fellow commissioners if we need to reference back to maybe a meeting or?
Yeah, I was thinking whoever dissented, it would be their responsibility to write a dissenting paragraph, and Commissioner Donaldson said, they wouldn't be allowed to hold up the process. So we could put within 24 hours or something, and they can say just a paragraph, literally, that's it. But I would think it'll be the responsibility of those to write it. I wouldn't put that on the staff. And I think our previous meeting minutes and stuff on the website, I thought that stuff lived up there forever. I don't know if we have any control, but I assume, and that's probably a question for Interim Director Jason, how long do minutes and meeting recording, how long does that stay up on the website?
Indefinitely. Right now, we don't have a removal time because we've never hit a storage wall. So we leave them up forever.
Thank you so much for the discussion. We will now move to a vote for adoption of the public speaking, commentary, and media relations
The vote
section.
is for the amendment.
Right? It's on the
To
amendment.
the-
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the amendment. So
To the chair, there was a rule question passed to me. So 1.9 might take precedent here. A rule has to be read, discussed, and voted on as part of the agenda of the Rules Committee meeting prior to the amendment being introduced to the full commission. So because these are adopted in our bylaws, my interpretation is that this would have to go back to Rules Committee, be voted upon in Rules Committee, and then brought forward again. 1.9 says that we can't pass a rule that hasn't been passed in its entirety in the Rules Committee first. That's just a technical point here. So it would come back amended if it passed in Rules Committee for a question this evening. Or in the alternative, the chair can put, or not the chair, but another member can put forward this rule this evening as it stands. If it were not to pass, it would go back. So that's where we're at right now. It doesn't appear that the rules allow an amendment to a rule that's already been passed by the Rules Committee by the Commission at this level.
So, Ms. Ferguson, is that clarifying for you that if you want to make an amendment to a rule that has already gone through the Rules Committee and been approved, you will have to introduce this rule in the Rules Committee, and we will have to bring it back to this full commission. So at this point, we still have a motion for Ms. Garret Ferguson's amendment. Are we voting? So we're not voting on it. So is there a motion to adopt the public speaking, commentary, and media relations rule as written?
Yeah, we have to remove the motion that's on the floor first.
I'm removing the amendment made by Ms. Garret Ferguson because of Rule 1.9. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Just clarifying so that so at this point, this will be removed and then we would just vote on the existing. No, will we be voting to send that proposed amendment back to the rules committee, or will we just be voting then on the adoption of the?
We will be voting on the if someone makes a motion for that, we will be making, because your motion is still standing, we'll be making a motion for the public speaking commentary, media relations as written to be adopted. They'll go for a full commission vote. If you would like to make an amendment to that paragraph, you will have to come to our committee, the rules committee, introduce it, and we will vote on it there. It has to be introduced in the rules committee once before it can come to the full commission. Ms. Benito?
I think also, if we were not to pass this tonight, I think you could also voice your concerns to the members of the Rules Committee if you're not able to be there. I don't want it to be like that. If there are concerns by committee members or by commissioners, that would then potentially be brought back to the Rules Committee, and we could have a discussion and potentially come up with a solution. So I just wanted to name that as well. That I don't think someone has to physically be present at the Rules Committee meeting in order to say, hey, I want this to be considered by the Rules Committee, and this is my perspective.
Right, but the amendment has to be introduced there. Ms. Garret Ferguson, you're welcome to be present to voice your opinions on the matter, and other commissioners are too. So, will you remove the motion at hand because it seems to be in contradiction with Rule 1.9?
Yes, I will remove the motion.
Thank you so much. And now we are done with the discussion period. Is there a motion to adopt the public speaking commentary and media relations as written, section as written?
To the chair, I make a motion to table 2.8 to allow it to go back to the Rules Committee for discussion and approval based on the input from the commission members regarding it. Okay. Once approved, then we'll bring it back to full committee for the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
To the chair, I would just like to add that
it's a motion on the floor. Point of clarification, it's a motion on the floor.
So there's a motion. We need a second.
Second.
Second. Now discussion.
To the chair, I would just like to state that I think there are some flaws in this Rules Committee process. Because if we're in a situation where the Rules Committee has approved something, so we're getting what the Rules Committee is passing after it's already passed by the Rules Committee. So in some of these instances, so it's like this process where now we're in a situation where the Rules Committee has passed the rules, and in order to then amend those rules, then we have to go back to the Rules Committee, but they've already been passed by the Rules Committee, and now we're presented. I don't want to make like it more like bureaucratic, but it seems like then if you want to amend something or change it, like you're like holding up the Rules Committee. I wouldn't want to do that, but it just seems as if before voting on the rules, maybe do them in the committee and then give us the opportunity before you pass them, because
Thank you, Mr. As a clarifying point, the rules for 1.9 were passed by the full committee. The sections on the public speaking commentary media relations was emailed last Friday. I also received no feedback on it, so I understand your concerns. There was, I think, time for discussion before this point. Mr. Reeves?
Yeah, I was just going to say the Rules Committee passed it in a Rules Committee. Well, once it came to us, new information was introduced. That's why it needs to go back.
But if they are passed already, we're still in the same situation.
No. They're only passing that committee, not for the commission.
To move it forward to the
They
full
pass
commission.
it there.
I know,
then
but the
bring it to
rule
us.
is, to the chair, the rule is that once you all pass it, it does start this process, where then any amendments would have to go back to you all. But
Ms.
they're already passed.
Ms. Zaid.
To the chair, just for clarification, my understanding is even though it's passed in the Rules Committee, once the emails are sent out, if we have any concerns, we can discuss that with you, and it will not come to us until those issues are discussed in the Rules Committee, correct?
Yes. So, and we always, every commissioner may attend, just along with the public, our Rules Committee meetings. They can participate actively in the discussion. The agenda for the meetings are also proposed and are also disseminated beforehand. So is there, Mr. Goodrick?
Yeah, just a point of process. So the way we do it is not unusual in parliamentary anywhere. So if any commissioner can come to a rules committee meeting when they see an agenda item that's important to them and partake in that discussion, they just can't vote on that, right? So if there's a rule being considered in a committee, or if some business in the future of any commissioner is in a committee that they're not on that concerns them, they should attend, they should watch the videos online, they should tune into that. Because what happens when we do amendments and discussions in the full body, that defeats the point of a committee, because then everything should just become to the full body and be debated there, right? So it's unusual to see amendments on the floors of a full body. Where you see amendments is in the committee where it's being debated, and then the question is, do we want to adopt this whole thing? And the answer to, if you don't like the rule that's before you or whatever's before you, you do have a vote of no, right? So, and then another point is, even if we were to pass this rule this evening, which we didn't because it was tabled, which was probably a good decision because there's some contention, it doesn't mean that it can't be reopened again in the committee, even if something passed at a later time if it was important. So it's a point of process, just and good practice to not re-debate things that were already debated with the point of changing them when committee brings work forward. It's usually about the work holistically. Do you like it or not like it? And a vote in that manner.
Thank you, Mr. Goodrick. So there is a motion to table the public speaking commentary and media relations. Do we have a second? Yeah. We had a second. So if there's no more discussion, I'm going to call for a vote to table and bring it, send it back to the Rules Committee. Roll call vote, Commissioner Kennedy. Aye. Commissioner Chura.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Garret Ferguson.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Zaid.
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway. Aye. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
And I vote aye, so it's unanimously going to be brought back to the Rules Committee. Thank you for the further thought on that issue. Now we will move on to the part about expenditure approval and budget oversight, the administrative procedure for that. Ms. Benito?
I have a question. I don't know how you can do this in parliamentary procedure, but as a member of the Rules Committee, I would like to hear what the vote would be on the question of that Commissioner Garret Ferguson brought up, just as kind of a point of information for us to bring back to the Rules Committee. Is there a way to gather that information versus in a vote?
Yeah, I think I could be wrong. The only way it is to vote, and we also had a feedback period. I don't think that, so you're trying to assess whether the vote will go through and whether it needs to be tabled?
I'm wondering if there's a procedure that you could use for everybody to go and either voice their support or not for that issue. And it's okay if not. I think it would be good information for us to have.
That would, I believe, just be a vote, and if it passes, I think by nine votes, it would be passed. So and approved. Ms. Zaid.
Oh, could we just just send an email about our opinions?
Yes.
To the chair?
Yes.
I would encourage any commissioner to attend committee. It's okay to attend. And, you know, you're only restricted by two things. You can definitely participate in the discussion. You can offer input. You can't make a motion if you're not part of the Rules Committee, nor can you vote. But your input would definitely be considered, and that's the whole purpose of voting to table it, to take it back to the Rules Committee, to take your concerns tonight back to the Rules Committee to discuss this particular rule with that input in place. You know, we may end up changing it, we may end up keeping it. Either way, we must come back to full committee with it for a vote, and the discussion should say, justify why it was changed. You know, but the purpose of taking it back to rules is to take what you have given us tonight, put it on the table in the Rules Committee, discuss it, and then bring it back to full commission for a vote. And we encourage you to come. You can send us something in writing if you like. Commissioner Wang is the chair of that committee. Send her any input you have so that it could be considered at the table when it comes back to Rules Committee. I would also encourage all of us to go back to the rules package, because at the back of that, it tells you how amendments or recensions are to be handled when they come out of committee. So I would encourage all of us to read it so that we know what the process is. But most times those are sent out before the full commission. Read them carefully. Voice your opinion about it. Let us know what needs to be done so that we know how to move anything forward. I don't think we're trying to eliminate the voices of dissenters at all. We want to eliminate dissenters. We want to get your input, put it in a rule that can be accepted. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe the current discussion is on the expenditure approval and budget oversight portion. Is there a motion to adopt that rule or administrative procedure?
Sorry, one question to the chair. Did we take a vote on the motion to table, or?
We did.
We did.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot going on.
So yeah, I would make a motion to adopt that section.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Ms. Benito. So we will take a roll call vote. Is there any discussion? No discussion. We'll take a roll call vote for the expenditure approval and budget oversight section of the administrative procedures. Commissioner Kennedy. Aye. Commissioner Chura.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Garret Ferguson.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed. Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so it passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We will now move on to an update from the hiring committee. Mr. Donaldson, Commissioner Donaldson.
Yes, I have nothing to add at this point related to the hiring committee.
Thank you so much for that. Now we will move on to, we have half an hour left. We will move on to new business, a presentation by Senior Policy Analyst of the CPC, Ryan Walker, on the Ohio Legislature concern of HB 84 and Senate Bill 53, as well as the quantification of the 12th semi-annual report of the commission. Mr. Walker. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and sit. So I will start with the all right, so I will first recently I will start with the legislation before the Ohio Assembly that is presently Senate Bill 53 and House Bill 84. And so what this legislation would do, it would lower the age of people who are eligible to be police officers from 21, as is the standard in Ohio, to 18. And from the research that the staff has done, the staff is comfortable recommending that the commission speaks out, would would speak against this type of legislation for a whole host of reasons. We want to sort of echo the sentiment expressed by Safety Director Howard today before speaking before Cleveland City Council against legislation. And we believe that should this legislation pass, or at least as the staff believes that should this legislation pass, we should follow the example of our admitted rival, Cincinnati, him saying that we will not be hiring officers below the age of 21. This is also the recommendation from the Ohio Fraternal Order of Police. The main issue that we have a concern with looking at the sort of proposal is the issue of maturity and of discretion. Peace officers and police officers have a lot of discretion when they are engaging with citizens, and one of the most common arguments in favor of this legislation is that people can serve in the military at the age of 18. However, being a soldier and being a police officer are very different. Yes, of course, there is a sort of quasi-hierarchical structure, but in the military, as an enlisted person, you have no discretion whatsoever. You're under the command of your officers who are much older than you and, generally speaking, college educated. And so you don't have that level of discretion. Of course, there's also the issue of military discipline. The military is much stricter in its disciplinary policies than you are with police, because police are civilians. They're not soldiers. And also the sort of training to be a soldier is very different. It's much more focused on tactics and strength building, and where a lot of the police officer training involves things like learning laws and learning what people's rights are. So it's a different type of understanding. What I will say though is that if you look at one of the reasons that they want to lower the age of people applying to be police officers or becoming police officers was there is this 3-year gap between high school and becoming a police officer. However, there is alternative proposals have been made. In fact, in the city of Cleveland, going as far back as the 1967, the Challenge of Crime in a Free Society, one of the poor reports we said for 100 years report was that you could have a 3-tier system. You could bring 18-year-olds on board. They don't have that 3-year gap. But instead of being full sworn officers, they would be service officers. They would serve a number of years. They would not be armed, but they would handle a lot of the sort of calls that police officers are called to today that don't necessarily require having an armed sworn officer. And then once they become 21 or a bit older, then they can actually become sworn officers. This is a proposal that other cities have also done, so I think that would be a much better route for the city of Cleveland to go, as opposed to simply having recent 18-year-old high school graduates serve as fully armed police officers. That was the first one. The second report I wanted to bring up was the quantification report. We've done this. This is now the 5th time we've done this. We've done this every 6 months since 2019, where we take the monitor's report and we quantify it. You read the specifics of how we quantify it, but it's really simple. They get a score based on how much progress they've made, whether it's non-compliance, partial compliance, operational compliance, or general compliance. They get a score based on that. And so every year we've been tracking this, and this year the score has gone down by 3.4% to 39% of the way total completion. Now this actually is quite similar to the number that the monitoring team came up with of their sort of percentage of what they call green observations. That's either that's operational compliance or general compliance. And what they found was about 44% of the requirements of a consent decree were under at least that level of compliance, which they consider the minimum level of compliance to be to meet the obligations of the consent decree. And yes, of course, this quantification has received criticism. People say that it's a bit too simplified. It's a bit too, how we weight. People criticize how we weight things. But what I will say is that what we have shown is this is the whole idea behind this is to give the citizens of Cleveland a simple way, a straightforward way to track the progress that the city of Cleveland has made in regards to the and basing them off of the monitoring team's own assessments. And so, what we found is that, we've seen some backsliding in the last year. The main reason for this, according to what the monitoring team had written was that the commission took longer. It took a long time to get seated, and so a lot of that work was not able to get done because it took a while to seat the commission. And so that's where a lot of that loss was. So we're roughly, 4/10. So according to the modern team's assessment, I will stress that, we're only 4/10 of the way there before we can even move on to the next stage of the assessment. Because that's to move on to then the 2-year assessment period. So this is just to emphasize that while again there has been progress, we've seen a slowdown recently in the last year, and there's a lot of work left to be done to be in full compliance with the consent decree. So, if anyone has any questions, I'll happily answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Are there any questions?
To the chair.
Yes.
Is there anything that we need to do formally in terms of a response to not the quantification report, but to the police officers? I know public safety and the police department can make formal statements. Do we as a commission need to do anything?
We can, to the chair, we can do several things. The slower route is to write a resolution and wait till the next meeting to pass it with a stance, right? The quicker route is to take a vote to agree with the sentiment of the memorandum now, so that in our when we do speaking engagements of the co-chairs or anyone else, there's a general endorsement from this body that we agree that we are against hiring 18-year-olds here. So my advice would be, if you could take the quicker route this evening, then we can begin work, and perhaps even if it looks like this is making progress at the state, plan a trip to the state, whatever we decide from this on. But in the spirit of the memo, if you were to say, we take a stance in the spirit of the memo and agree with the findings in the memo, I think that's enough to empower both the co-chairs and the staff to use whatever power is given to us to speak against this.
Thank you. Any more questions, Commissioner Benito?
Thank you so much for your excellent work on this. I really enjoy reading the work that you put together. We're very lucky to have you, Ryan. I had a really quick question, and I'm probably just misunderstanding something really obvious, but I was wondering for section, thank you. For section 6, the use of force, was my understanding for the total, so the total change from the 11th semi-annual was +2, but then it says -3.3%. Can you help me understand it?
Oh yeah, yes, I'd be happy to. So this is one of those things where we're trying to quantify something that is not consistently scaled or graded. So basically, what ended up happening with the use of force section was, particularly the use of force review section, was that they increased. So sometimes what they do when they assess things is they lump paragraphs together, and in this case, they spread them out. So previously, the paragraphs were all lumped as a single group and assessed. So it only got a single score for that. This time, they opted to spread out 6 paragraphs to be assessed separately. And so what happened was amongst the existing paragraphs in that section, 2 of them showed improvement, so they got a score of +2. But because the paragraphs they expanded out and analyzed, they didn't score very well on, and it brought the overall average score down. And that's probably why the monitor wanted to focus on this, because there was a specific area. It was basically this one area, like, and they're not doing as good in this area. We need to kind of break it down and see what's going on with each category. And so that's what happened. I know it is a tad confusing. Yeah, so technically the numeric score went up, but the percent score went down, because it was now, you had a bunch of lower scores averaged into the overall score. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any more questions? Are we voting?
No.
Oh. Is there, there's no other person. Are there any motions or actions that we need to take on this? I think, I'm sorry, it was asked before.
It's a question of the commission. Does any commissioner want to make a motion?
Or does any commissioner want to make a motion based on Mr. Walker's report.
I move that we accept the report that was presented by staff, Ryan, in regarding Ohio legislation concern House Bill 84 and Senate Bill 53, and we allowed them to make a memo.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Chura. Thank you, Ms. Ridgway. Is there any, we've had this discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Chura. Aye. Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Adams.
Abstain.
Commissioner Garret Ferguson.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed.
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the ayes have it, and the motion passed. We're now moving on to our second. If I know everyone is quite expended from this marathon session, but I open the floor to any further public comment or feedback from our community members that came today. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Congratulations that we finished one particular task important to you and to the community, having 2 co-chairs elected today. However, during our discussion about how we want to proceed with certain legislation, well, I wouldn't say legislation, certain rules we want to use in our meetings or in our practice. I really think that if you guys already agree to use Robert's rules, even I don't know about that Robert, I'm not fond of that guy. If you guys already agree to use that, then please use that properly. Please do not pick and choose. For example, in Robert's rules, it actually has a good part. The reason people use it is because of the voting. So have you guys check out that particular section telling people how it should be done? If a group, any organization votes on something, probably in Robert's rules and orders, you probably will find out how they define the final documents should be processed. Has anybody found that out? I mean, this just happened today, so I guess nobody has the time to go to do the research immediately. But if we spend too much time on this kind of discussion, we probably delayed our time to do the real important things. And that also makes the community confused that if among 13 of you, you are too divided. It's good to have an individual expression to stand up to your point. But among 13 of you, you guys should not be there killing one another. That's the job other people already have been doing, and that's the reason why you guys are here, try to save the people out of that trouble. So please don't give people the impression that you are doing that yourselves. Other than that, I think we have a very constructive meetings today because everybody could fully participate and express your own points. And I hope this particular situation will go into all our committee meetings as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. Any other comments? Mr. Jackson?
Hi, good evening, everyone. First, I want to say congratulations to you all picking co-chairs. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. To the chair and to you all, I really hope as you go back into committee about this rule that you think very long and hard about it. I understand the need for individuality, but this is a commission. You are one entity, not many. And because of that, you think with one mind, you present with one mind. as you come out to us, the citizens, you tell us as this one mind what you've come to agree with, what you've come to disagree with. That being the case, that was the sole purpose of building out all of these different committees, because it's in the committee, which is the workhorse of the commission. The committees have all of the discussions, the fors, the against. And as you all represent a certain segment of the community of Cleveland, you can bring those thoughts and feelings to those committees and hash it out there. So when you get here, that thing is already taken care of, and you're speaking as one voice now. So that was the reasoning for that, and believe me, prior commissions, we agonized over this because you had people who wanted to still be individuals. But I have to tell you, the minute you became sworn in to do this job, you agreed to be one entity, not a bunch of individuals. So while I truly understand wanting to have that section there, which really it sounds like a good idea, it is a slippery slope for what's going to happen next. And we're just trying to protect you from that so that that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Are there any other comments? Ms. Rosie, Ms. Muriel or Ms. Rosie?
Hi, my name is Rosie Palfy. I'm really concerned about what I heard today. First of all, I realize things come up in discussion when you all are voting or talking about things, but before you vote on something like this, the language should be in, I know it came up today, but it should be in the agenda. The public should know what you're proposing to vote on, because I know this is a new commission. I genuinely appreciate all the time that you all are putting into this and the commitment, but it seems like there are a few people who consistently derail meetings, and people could be asking questions now, and you all could be answering them, and because of a discussion that was kind of unplanned, it seems like it maybe threw off the schedule. The other thing I want to say is, with the previous commissions, when they put out press releases, all of the commissioners' names were on the press release, like on the right-hand side, right, in like a column. But if they didn't all agree to the press release, their name wasn't under the press release. There were signature stamps. So frequently you would see 10 names, but the 3 police officers representing unions often didn't agree to that press release. So their names weren't listed. Now that's one thing to do, and I think that's reasonable, but to have like a dissenting opinion, like this isn't the Supreme Court, to have a dissenting opinion in a report that you all put out, I think is not a good idea. But if you vote to put out the report, then your abstaining or your no vote is recorded, and it's there, so people know that you didn't agree, and you can say why you didn't agree during the meeting. What I wanted to talk about was crisis intervention. It's come up a lot. A lot of people don't realize there's something called the City of Cleveland Mental Health Response Advisory Committee. I've been a member since it was created in 2015. Whether or not I'm still a member is kind of up for debate. Hasn't gotten a lot of attention. My concern is the committee isn't doing its job. It hasn't done its job in a long time. And promises were made. You see the due diligence the city did to find all of you, right? You see the amount of time and energy Mr. Delonte Spencer Thomas has put into this. We don't have him. There's a new MRAC, and we don't have his expertise coming and doing trainings. So what happened was the Adams Board ran the Mental Health Response Advisory Committee with a memorandum of understanding with the city since September 2015. They notified the city in November of last year that they were no longer going to be the convener. They were going to be a member of the committee. So now the city is running the committee. And so what happened was we last met in November, and the city designated Dr. David Margolius, the Director of Public Health, to be the chair of the committee, okay? Dr. Margolius, I've heard nothing but great things about him, but I feel like the city has thrown him under the bus. We don't have a consent decree because the Department of Public Health violated civil rights or constitutional rights. So he sent out an email in January. He said he was going to reach out to all of us individually. He did not. He put out an application for prospective community advocates with no deadline. He also said there was going to be a public recruiting push. He did not. So what happened was he just decided on who would be a member of this committee. And so I did not submit an application because there was no deadline and I was waiting for him to contact me. So luckily we have Lou as one of the new members. I want to thank Mr. Goodrick and Commissioner Benito. I notified them about the meeting that was held early last month and they attended. But it's obvious, and what I find really disturbing is that Dr. Anderson was present at the meeting. It was held on Zoom. Now they're meeting during the day. Residents aren't available then. They don't even know the committee exists. And instead of meeting every other month, they want to meet quarterly. And so Dr. Adams was there, and what I don't understand is that, did I say her name? Is it Anderson? The new police accountability team director? Okay, Dr. Anderson. Very, very impressive. Okay, but she was there, and the thing is, crisis intervention is not going to get done if they meet quarterly, even if the subcommittees meet monthly, okay? And the thing is, they're not going to have a data committee. One of the requirements is that they analyze data about whether or not specialized crisis intervention trained officers are dispatched by dispatchers to the scene, and they're supposed to make recommendations about this. So if you don't have a data committee, how are you going to do that? I'm going to have to take this up with the judge, but I just wanted to let you all know what's going on. There's nothing codified for this committee to exist after the consent decree is terminated. I believe that this committee needs adult supervision and should fall under the police commission. And I think that even if you're not going to have this discussion now, there needs to be a discussion at some point to figure out how crisis intervention is going to be included in your work so it's not in a silo, which it is right now. One more quick thing. The MRAC has always had a liaison from the police commission. Okay, and that person came back to the commission and told them what was going on, but the commission never made formal written recommendations to the Mental Health Response Advisory Committee. So I suggest that you guys pick a liaison, and I would recommend Commissioner Benito. She's done crisis intervention training before, and with the breadth and depth of her work experience and education, I think she would be a perfect fit for that. So thank you very much, and congratulations to the new co-chairs.
Thank you so much. Ms. Riggins?
Yes, I would concur with the statements that were made earlier that, first of all, congratulations to the co-chairs. It was a privilege to be a part of it this evening. I especially enjoyed hearing about the backgrounds of those candidates that were running, as I'm new. But also being here and listening to what was going on, looking and reading online what you are about, what you're charged to do is a very important thing. We have a real problem here. That's why you guys are here. And your time, your credentials, your experience is amazing. But it was really disappointing to find so much time, even though the issue may be important. You have adopted a process of Robert's Rules of Order. People get work done in committees. That's what committees are for. You are a unit, as this gentleman so adequately said. When you signed on, you're one. You are one positive force to help the problem that we have. All of this back and forth, and believe me, I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. I'm an old Clevelander for a long, long time. I was sharing with someone earlier, I was with the first Community Development Corporation in Huff, before Cleveland Clinic built the housing for the residents, because those were people that used to live there. But so It's hard to get things done when people don't stick to the reason they're here. Don't get hung up on the little stuff. We don't have time. You know, and I heard this lady talking about crisis intervention. We've been doing crisis intervention for over 20 years. And what I'm talking about is learning how to not have a crisis attitude, to approach a situation in a totally different light. It's the only way things are going to change. So again, thank you for the privilege of being here, and kudos to such an illustrious group of people. But remember, you're as strong as your weakest link. You are one group. Stay focused on why you are here, to solve the problem, not be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Riggins. Are there any further comments? If there are not, we will move to adjourn the meeting.
I
1
move-
minute. Sorry. Commissioner.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
1 minute ahead of schedule, so kudos to us too. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody that will listen to this after the fact, and we would encourage further people to come in as our audience members did, and we welcome you for our next meeting. What is the next meeting? The fourth Wednesday, which is in 2 weeks, April 26th. Thank you so much.